Okay then. So hello guys. Let's start this event today. So those of you who are new, I welcome you for the first event that we are conducting as part of Code Academy JE chapter. Those who have already come, welcome back. So generally, when we start our event at Code Academy JE chapter, we have some quick introductions about ourselves, right? So let me introduce myself first. I am Ashwin Bharat, the chapter lead for JE chapter, and I'm a web developer, I'm a blogger, and I'm also a final year undergraduate student from Bangalore, India. So let's get to know each other, right? Using a small fun activity. Okay, so I would like to introduce yourself in this format, like what your name, what are your interests, and what are your skills. Can either use your mic or the chat, and let's see. So one of our members who have joined recently is Yarden Tal. He is from Israel, if I'm right, if my memory is right. So he has attended the previous DOM manipulation event as well. So I welcome you back, Yarden. And we have newcomers Deepak and Akshat. If you want to introduce yourself, you can use your chat section or your mic also. Hello, Grish.
Yeah, bro. Hello.
Hello. So we are just starting right now. So if you can introduce yourself, it would be great. Right? Can you set my mic as well? Okay. So Akshat Kumar is from Jain University, Bangalore only. Great. And okay, you love to play in areas of ML and front end. Recently started blogging. That's great. So we have another blogger over here. Great. So those of you who have joined recently, we have just started out. You can introduce yourself in this format. Your name, your interest, your skills. Right. So let's see. Okay, Deepak is an aspiring developer working on a project currently using React.js. That's great. It's good. React.js is actually currently the popular front-end library used by a lot of companies, right? A lot of developers. And even I'm working on a project, finally a project actually, using React.js. That's great. Cool, cool. So let's proceed with what JavaScript roadmap was till now. So basically, what we did in Code Academy JU chapter is we covered the basics and DOM manipulation as part of a roadmap, so that uh, you know I can demystify what is JavaScript, right? So today I'll be going back a little bit, previously what we covered in JavaScript, the basics part till now, right? So before starting this JavaScript ECMAScript event actually, it's better to go back and see why we are learning this specific concept, right? So when we try to see what is the scope of JavaScript, right? The scope is this, that JavaScript is the language of the web. Right? So most of you who are attending this right now, you might be already familiar with we need JavaScript to even to create a front end website, right? So JavaScript is also now the most popular language as well in the entire world, used by millions and millions of people, right? So what happens is, when we have a large community like this, like whenever you have a really good number of developers, we get a lot of technologies from this ecosystem, right? So one of these where we can point out is the ability to build user interfaces. Even Deepak from our people who are attending this event right now, right? You are currently building React.js website. So you might be already familiar with how easy it is to build user interfaces, very similar to how Facebook is using, right? As React.js is a open source library created by Facebook. We can create really good user interfaces, which is very similar to what Facebook is using right now, right? And as well, Angular is also created by Google, and Vue another created by another open source developer actually. So as you can see, like we have come a long way since the beginning of since the origin of JavaScript. We can say we can also build servers and REST APIs using Node.js. Node.js is actually a runtime, right? Which is used by a lot of developers at the backend, so that whenever developers who are using JavaScript, right, both front end and back end, for them the language, the use of language becomes more and more easy, so that because previously we used to have Java, Python, and C++, and a lot of other languages specifically for backend, right? But nowadays we can actually use one language for both front end and back end, which gives a really good usability for our developers as a developers, right? And we can also build mobile applications actually using library called React Native. So it is very similar to React.js library only. So when we learn React.js, it's very easy to learn React Native as well, which is the library used for mobile application development. So as you can see, the power of JavaScript, right, it keeps on growing and growing, right? We can also build desktop applications using Electron. So most of you might have already come across some really popular desktop applications, right? For example, if you take Slack, or if you take Atom code editor, most of these current new desktop applications are actually built with Electron.js only. So why? Because when there are a lot of developers working on the community, right, for this companies as well, they prefer which is more easy to them, right? So that's the power we get with JavaScript. We can also build robotics and dive into the IoT platform using a library called Johnify. So it is very popular. You can visit this website as well in the future to know more. So this is the essence of JavaScript, right? It is everywhere. You can use it on any device that we are actually using in our day-to-day life right now, right? So this is what we were as well covering in the first event, the JavaScript basics, right? So why I brought you back to this concept is to understand the history of JavaScript. Okay, so what happened in the history is JavaScript was actually created by a bunch of developers who are working on a browser called Mosaic. Okay, so it was the first browser who introduced JavaScript in their browser software actually. So after that, what happened was every other company like Microsoft, Google, and they all started to create their own versions of JavaScript and their own versions of browsers as well. So what happened was everyone couldn't kind of follow a same language, because each of them had their own versions, right? So this created a lot of war between each other, right? So what happened was JavaScript community came up with a standard called ECMAScript, right? So ECMAScript and JavaScript these days are actually used interchangeably. This is the actual reason, because ECMAScript is actually standard right now, which is actually kind of adopted by a lot of browsers right now. Okay, so that's why today we are going to kind of cover what are the new features and how we came till now, right? So let me show you a quick Medium blog post. Okay, this is a really interesting read. I will also share it in the description. Okay, so just a second. So as you can see, ECMAScript in the beginning was actually trademarked by Oracle, and right now we started calling ECMAScript and JavaScript interchangeably, as you can see. So this ECMAScript is actually implemented by Mozilla, right? So whatever the Mozilla Firefox, the browser, right? So actually the original team who worked on the first browser called Mosaic, right? They are the one who are currently working on Mozilla right now. That browser is actually renamed as Mozilla right now. So that's why Mozilla Firefox kind of browser is actually quite popular among the developer community, because it is an open source browser used by a lot of developers as well, right? So let me show you what you can see in this blog post is that there are a lot of numbers, right? There is ECMAScript 1, 2, 3, 4. These are nothing but versions of JavaScript which came in years, and the community, what they did was they planned to roll out every year a new feature. So it was ECMAScript 5. As you can see, it is ECMAScript 5 and ECMAScript 6, which has brought a lot of new features into JavaScript, which is at this point very similar to any language like Python or Java that we use in our uh, other software development field itself, right? So as you can see, the current browsers are supporting only up to ES5. So ES5 is nothing but ECMAScript 5. Okay, so so whenever we try to write ECMAScript 6, there's a small abstraction layer that we have to use, where we should convert our ECMAScript 6 to 5. Okay, so that's where we use a compiler called Babel. Okay, so you can check out later as well. And today what we are going to do, we are going to explore what are these new ECMAScript 6 features that we had in have in a JavaScript language as well. Okay, so let me share my screen again, right? Okay, so previously what we covered in JavaScript basics were the variables, what are data types, control flow, operators and functions as well, right? So right now what we are going to do is we are going to see, like as we were reading out, these are all the new important features that you can use in your projects, and you might have even encountered this kind of code in your project as well whenever you are learning more about JavaScript. So let me show you each and every new feature one by one. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you is two keywords called const and let. Okay, let me increase the size of the font. Just a second. It's visible. Okay, cool. So I'm currently using a online editor called Repl IT. So Repl it. So you can let me share in the chat as well. If you want to follow along, you can just sign in with your current existing accounts like Google or GitHub. So first we are going to see what is const and let. Okay, so previously what we had before ECMAScript 6 is that you are using a keyword called var stands for variable, and generally when we were trying to do when we are trying to declare any variable called x and assign a value, this is how we used to do this, right? This is how we used to do. So if I try to console.log the value of x, so let me command the new code, just a second, right? So if I try to console.log, what we get is the value of 12, right? As you can see, we got the value 12, right? So this is what we used to do previously in JavaScript. One small change that we got in ES6 is that we can use two keywords called const and let. Okay, so I have given a small example over here. Okay, so consider a small game that we are trying to create. Okay, and let's say we are having three variables called player, experience, and wizard level, and we are using this to create some logic in our game that you are going to build. Okay, so just assume that we are going to do this. Okay, so whenever we are trying to kind of uh, compare the experience, if it is greater than 90, so we can say the current player is at wizard level. Okay, otherwise let's say he's not, we'll be giving false. Okay, so what happens is once we you know once we use const variable, const stands for constant. Okay, so once you assign any value to this variable const, we cannot change it. Okay, so I'll come back to that later as well. Okay, and another keyword that we have is let. Okay, so let is similar to where. Okay, so what we can do is we can have you know use this to create a variable. We can change the value if it is 100 right here. If I try to change the value inside over here, we can also change it, but if we try to do this with const, it won't allow. Okay, so okay, let me run it. We uncomment the previous code and let me run this code. So what you can see is that when we try to console.log, right, so you might have seen something interesting, right? So here what we did, we assigned false to the wizard level outside this if else if statement, right? So what I'm doing inside this if statement is that I'm creating another wizard level variable with the value true. Okay, so and when I console.log, the value true is logged over here, which is inside the if loop, sorry, if condition. But when I try to console.log outside, it is giving us false, right? Why this happens is we are creating a local variable inside if statement. Okay, we are creating a local variable. So and this what happens is this kind of overrides this variables such that we only have wizard level inside this if block condition. Okay, so whenever we go out of this braces, what happens is we will start using this wizard level variable again. Okay, so if I for your understanding, if I remove this let keyword, right, and let me run it again, so what happens is this time the change that we do inside if block becomes permanent, right? So we'll get true at both the places. As you can see, we got true both the places. But whenever we trying to create something inside this if block, we will create something called scope, right? So the scope of this variable, when we give let and when we use it inside this, the scope of this wizard level is local, but this wizard level becomes global, right? So that's why the previous output was true and false. Okay, so if I try to do something like const, right, if let's say I'm changing this wizard level to const, and if I try to let me remove this as well. If I try to change the value of wizard level, which is actually a const, we will get an error. Why? Because const is actually used to create fixed values which cannot be changed in the future, right? So that's the difference between const and let. These are the new features that we had, in ECMAScript 6 ES6. Okay, so the next feature what we are going to see is that that's going to be destructuring. Okay, so let me get a code snippet. Okay, so let me push this code down, the comment, and push it down. Okay, so now let me show you a concept called destructuring. Okay, so destructuring, what it does is that if you consider this example object, okay, I created an object. We are using that same analogy, right? A game where you are storing all of these variables inside an object, right? So this becomes more accessible, right? We can, each time when we want to use it, we can kind of use it like this, right? Object dot player. So this is how we access this value of player's name, right? So what you can see is that previously we used to do this. What we used to do was we kind of needed to access each and every key value pair that we have using object dot object dot object dot. So this becomes very tedious, right? So in this new ECMAScript feature, what we received with this, instead of having this like assigning this value separately, what we can do in the bottom, as you can see, we can kind of assign the value directly using this curly braces, inside which you are going to give player and experience. Okay, so let me comment this code and let me show you, prove it to kind of what are the values of player, right? So let me show you what are the player experience and wizard log. Okay, so let me console.log this for you. Right, and if I try to run this, what happens is we directly got the value Bob 100 false. Can you see this? The player got directly assigned the value of player instead of giving it as object dot player, right? So what happens in behind the screen is that this object is kind of represented this way, right? It is represented using curly braces with a key value pair kind of syntax, right? So when we try to destructure, when we try to use the concept of destructuring, it and whenever I'm giving this player and experience, right? So when I'm giving the exact words that we used previously in this object inside this curly braces, the values got directly assigned to this variables player, experience, as well as wizard level. So that's why even if I'm giving two variables in this const declaration, right, I got the value of 2, and again when I'm separately getting this third value, I'm getting the value false, right? So the order doesn't matter. You can destructure in any order that you want. The only thing that you have to focus is that you have to use the same variable name previously used for destructuring. Okay, so this is how we can do it, right? And by the way, if you can see this console.log, I used commas to separate each and every value, right? So whenever we are trying to console.log different multiple variables, what happens is that behind the screen our output is displayed with the space. Okay, so by default what console.log does is it will separate our values with spaces in between. Okay, so this was the entire concept behind what's destructuring and ECMAScript. So till now, do anyone have any doubts about the new syntax? Anybody? Anyone? All right. Okay. Great. So now what we are going to see is that we are going to see another concept called template strings. Okay. So generally when you are trying to log anything in the output in JavaScript, right? So what happens is we'll be using a concept called string concatenation, through which we can actually we also see another example, like whatever we are using in this previous example, right? We are separating with this by comma. Behind the screens, these values are converted into string and they are concatenated only with the separator called separator space, right? So that's what happens behind the screen. So if I try to prove it to you, what happens is that if we try to give comma instead of this addition symbol, so this is what happens when we pass the values using comma, right? So we try to see the output. Let me show you, like when I try to do both of these things, will the output match, right? So as you can see, the output is matching, right? So this is how console.log intelligently kind of gets the uh, variable names and kind of displays it properly. Okay, so let's say I want to kind of give this output more description, right? I don't know what is Sally, what is 34, and what is ours, right? And let's say I want to do something like this. So let me command this. Let's say I want to do something like this is the value of name, and let me kind of say, and this is the value of age. Age is equal to the variable name age, right? So this is what we previously used to do in JavaScript. We were kind of giving concatenating each and everything with this is age, this is the value of name, this is the value of pet. So if I try to show you the output, previously this is where we were used to do. Okay, so this is very tedious, right? But let's say we have hundreds and thousands of variable names, and let's say you want to output something like this. This becomes super complicated, right? We have to keep on typing everything each by hand, right? So instead of doing this, what we can do is we can use a concept called template strings. Okay, so this was also introduced in ECMAScript version 6. Okay, so instead of doing this, what I can do is I can use instead of quotation marks, what I'll be using, I will be using template strings. Okay, to wrap around each and every feature that I have in JavaScript. Okay, so this template strings, you can find the this keyword above the tab that you have in your keyboard. Okay, so using template strings, what I can do is I can kind of get this output pretty simply, but in a pretty simple way. Okay, so let me show you the syntax. So whenever you want to kind of output the variable, you have to use syntax something like this. Okay, so we'll be using a dollar sign followed by 2 curly braces. Okay, so and whatever is inside this template strings, it will be output, it will be given as the output as it is, just like how we were giving the quotation marks, right? So this backticks also work in a similar fashion only. The only difference is whatever we are giving inside this new syntax, right, with the dollar symbol as well as curly braces. So this is where our variables go in. Okay, so let me show you the final output, how this will look like. Okay, just a second. So the code that we have previously, right, we had to give plus symbol each and every time. So in order to avoid this tedious process, we can do something like this. Okay, and to prove it to you, let me uncomment the previous code as well and run it, and you will see that both of these outputs look absolutely the same. Okay, as you can see, this is how you can use template strings in JavaScript. Okay, so this is a very useful feature that we have. Okay, cool. So the next feature we'll be seeing is something called arrow functions. Okay, so this is going to be very exciting, right? So previously, if I have to get you back to the basics, this is how we used to declare JavaScript functions, right? If you can remember, so we were trying using the keyword function, and let's say I want to add a sum of two numbers. I'll be getting those variables in the form of arguments, and I'll be kind of printing it like this, right? Let's say I'm returning a plus b. So this is how we generally we used to do create functions using normal JavaScript, right, before ECMAScript new features came. So let's say I give the sum function 10 and 20. So and I'm logging the output as well using this return statement. And as you can see, the code we'll get will be 30, right? So as you can see, the output will be 30, right? So instead of doing all this, what we can do is we can kind of create a really elegant code that we have in JavaScript, okay? So which is called as arrow functions, okay? So in arrow functions, what we do is we kind of assign the function to a variable itself. Previously it was also available. Previously also we can use functions as if it is a value only. We can pass it in different functions as well. But now what we can do is we can kind of create a function like this, where we'll be passing the arguments at the beginning using this brackets, and I will be using this arrow, okay? So this arrow will be pointing to this whatever we are going to give the logic, right? So instead of putting that in one line, we can simply say I want to return a plus b, okay? So if I try to run this, okay, so let me call this as some, let me comment this, okay, so that you can see this running, okay. Let me put it before logging the output. Get a lot of errors today, cool. As you can see, both of this works the same way. We got the answer, right? So this is how we can use arrow functions in JavaScript, okay? So this kind of gives you an elegant way of reducing it to one line, right? So instead of giving this return statement, you can also remove this as well. You can also remove this kind of and make it this one as well, because whenever you want to return only a single thing, instead of putting any logic, if you want to return directly, this is how you can do. And if I show you the output, it will be looking almost the same only, right? So this is how you can kind of reduce the complexity of the code from 3 lines to 1 line, right? So this is another new great feature that you can try out, right? So moving on, so this was functions and this was arrow functions. So whatever the code I'm trying to doing over here, you can either code along, or you can check out the wrap up page after this, the event landing page as well, guys. I'll be also sharing the entire code links and the presentations and all in the chapter page where you are kind of registering, right? So let me go to the next snippet quickly. Great. So next what we are going to see is we can see what are the new features that we had in arrays, okay? So let me open up some new code, okay? So this is how we used to declare arrays in JavaScript, right? We will be using this bracket notation, and we will be giving a collection of values that we can store it in a variable, right? So what we have in the new new features from ECMAScript 6 is that we can use a concept called for each, okay? So as you can see, this code snippet, this for each, what it does was it is actually using an arrow function that we recently discussed, right? And what it does is in this new array called double, it will kind of push each and every value multiplied by 2, okay? So if I try to console log it, okay, let me show you the output, which was given by for each. So what you will get is you will get the same array multiplied by 2. Each and every value will be multiplied by 2, 4, 20 and 30, 32, right? So we'll be seeing that. So this for each is actually the new feature that we called an ES5. So this is very similar to something that we used to do using general for loop. So generally we had this for loop, right? Let I equal to 0 and I less than, let's say, array dot length and I plus plus. So generally we used to do this big syntax, and we were trying to do the same task like this, right? So this was the code that we had, the code ability that we had previously. And now what we can do with arrow functions as for each, this both of these code do the same thing only. Okay, so the new advantage is that we can kind of as you can see, you can kind of reduce it to one line as well, right? The code becomes more and more readable as well, right? So you can see, just a second, you can kind of show it in a one line code, which will also be easy to understand as well, right? So this is the new feature that we have, that we can apply to arrays as well. Okay, the array, and let me show you 3 other important functions that we can use, which was recently introduced by using ECMAScript. Okay, so this new feature that we have, okay, these new functions, these are nothing but called pure functions. Okay, so I have the code snippet ready for you. So what is pure functions for you, if I can say? So this is something that we have in functional programming concept. So generally a pure function is that, so let's say we have a function called x, right? Let me show you neatly, right? Okay, so let us say I have a function x, right? So whenever I'm passing this function, let me show you a neat arrow function itself. Let's say I have a function called func. Let's say I'm passing it a value x, right? So when I'm passing this value, the output should be always predictable. Okay, so it should be either a particular value a, or it should be a particular value b. So that's what a pure function does. Okay, the output should be always predictable. That is a number one property. Okay, it should be same at all times, at all costs. That's how we can say it is easy to do development itself, right? So whenever we know what is going to come, it will become easy and easier for us to develop good software, right? So another feature that pure functions that this is, it does not affect the outside world. Okay, what I mean by outside world is that so whenever I'm trying to do console.log, right, I'm doing it outside the functions itself. Whatever I'm doing over here, I'm doing outside the function, right? So that's what this one means. So we shouldn't have, this is also known as side effects. Okay, so whenever you are trying to kind of console.log, or whenever you are trying to even change the values of, let's say, array over here, right, we are changing the value of here we are creating a new array, but let's say you are changing the value of current array itself, that's a side effect, because we are kind of changing whatever is present outside this world of let's say this for each function, or this new function that we have. So in JavaScript we have some pre-built 3 functions present through this ECMAScript feature. Okay, so these are nothing but map, filter, and radius. Okay, let us see one by one what each of these functions does. So map is nothing but map is a function which will accept a function. Okay, so here we are, as you can see, in every pure function we are passing a arrow function itself. So that's how we can improve our code ability as well. So as you can see, the map function, what it does is it kind of do the same thing what the function that we are using previously in this for each, right? So whatever you are giving the function, let's say I'm passing this function, right, this function, arrow function, where I'm giving the number and I'm multiplying it by 2. So whenever you pass a function like this, what map does is it will create a new data structure. Here in this case we are creating an array, map array, okay, in which the values will be populated with the previous the previous array that we are applying the function, right? So we are applying this function using this dot operator, and we are kind of passing this function to map each and every value associated with the multiple of 2, right? So if I try to run this code, so you can see both of this for each and double answers will be the same, right? So as you can see, the output are same. So this is how we can use map in JavaScript to reduce even this line of code. This line of code is now reduced to this, right? So this is how we can use map on top of arrays that we have in JavaScript, right? So the next one that you're going to do is filter. Okay, so filter, what it does is it is also accepting a function, arrow function. As you can see, you can also pass a normal function also. So this arrow function, what it does, it is checking whether the number is greater than 5. Okay, based on the value, this will be either returning true or false, right? Whenever you give an expression which is checking the given value like this, it will give true or false. So we should always pass a function which either returns a boolean value, right? Either true or false, a boolean value. And based on that boolean value, this filter function, what it does, it will filter the array that we are applying on. In this array, we are using this filter function. We are applying on top of it, and we are filtering whichever numbers are which are greater than 5. Here it is 20, 32, right? And we'll that values will be directly populated in this filter array variable. Okay, if I try to run this again, the output that you will see on the right side is 10 and 16. That's because we filtered it, right? We filtered it using this kind of this one. Okay, let me take a new example. I'll give you more clarity. Let's say I'm having array 2. Okay, and let's say I have values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just as few basic numbers, and let's say I'm applying on top of this, and let's say I want to have only the odd numbers present in this. Okay, so if I want to filter that out, I'll be checking whether the modulo when we divide it by 2 is not equal to 0. That will be an odd number, right? Whenever we try to divide this numbers, and whenever we get the remainder as something which is other than 0, that those numbers are considered as odd number, right? So if we try to filter the output, normally what we will get is 1, 3 and 5. Okay, so let me run it. So this is how you can use filter in JavaScript to kind of, as you can see, it is 1, 3 and 5, right? So this is how you can use filter to kind of reduce our we can kind of filter out whatever the values we have very quickly using this arrow function and this new feature. So moving on, what we can now say is another pure function called reduce. Okay, so these three functions what you are using, we are actually applying it on top of the array data structure only, right? So whatever I displayed over here, array, we are applying on top of that this one actually. So it is coming along with the array data structure itself. Okay, so this reduce function, what it does is it will accept two parameters actually, whatever the function that you are passing, plus another value called on which it will be reduced. Okay, so let me explain it bit by bit. So what happens is there are two variables called accumulator and number. So ACC stands for accumulator, so and this number. Okay, so what it does is whenever this function is running, right, so first of all what it will do at the beginning step, it will kind of add this the second parameter 0 plus the array that we have. Let me bring that array down. Okay, let me comment it on top over here. Let me bring this array down so it's visible for you. Okay, so in this array we have 1, 2, 10, 6, right, 16, right? So using reduce, what we can do is we can kind of add everything in a single go using accumulator and number. Okay, so what it does is the initial value 0 is added along with the first pass of this function. Okay, this function actually will be running 4 times for each and every value, just like how it was performing its function previously, right, with map and filter also. Each and every time it is checking for each and every value and giving us a output, right? So this is how reduce also works. The only difference is that we are kind of if I try to show you the output, you will kind of get the idea of what actually happens. Okay, so what happens is whenever we it is encountering just okay, get an error. Let me check it. Let me try to put it for array 2. Okay, so we commanded turbo. Actually, we are using the array over here as well. That's why we have the errors popping up, reference error. So whenever you try to kind of use the variables before initialization itself, we will get a reference error in JavaScript. So we have to be careful with that. So you don't have any doubts? So someone was unmuting. Right, okay, cool. So let me run it again. I have fixed that issue. Okay, good. So as you can see, the value over here is kind of given as 21. So this 21 is nothing but the addition, sum of all of these values that we have provided over here. Okay, so what happens is each and every time we are applying this function, right, in this particular value for each and every value in array 2, so it will kind of what it will do in it will use 0 along with this each and every number. It will reduce it to one single element. Okay, so let me give you more idea using console.log over here. Whenever you want to kind of understand what is going on inside a function, you can do something like console.log. Okay, and let's say I want the value of accumulator each and every time it runs, and let's say I also want the value of the number, and let me put it outside. Okay, right? Okay, so what it does, if I try to run this again, so each and every time this function is executing, right, the values of accumulator and number. So number is nothing but the number that is present in this array 2 only, guys. So each and every time, as you can see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 is nothing but this actual values present in this array 2, and the accumulator, what it does is whatever is given as the return statement, right, accumulator plus number. So initially accumulator is actually assigned as 0 because we are passing the value 0, right? If I try to give 1 over here in the beginning, if you can see it is 0, right, it will change to 1 actually. So that's the second argument that we are passing. Okay, so let me run it again, and if you try to see, the accumulator is 1 at the beginning, right? We can also, so using this we can give any let's say 100. We can give any specific point that we want to start our reduce function to kind of accumulate it. Okay, so as you can see, it is 100, and it is keep on adding everything, and we get the value 121, right? So this is how this reduce function also works. So each and every time it will kind of go through the code, and it go through the values, and it will reduce it to one single element. Okay, so each and every time this return statement, this value is there, right, it is stored in the accumulator itself. So accumulator at the beginning 100 plus 1 101, it will become 101, right? That is stored in accumulator itself. As you can see, the next value is 101. So let me show you what other things we can do. Instead of addition, you can also do multiplication as well, right? So addition was just a small example. If I try to multiply, we will get a really big number at the end, right? Will we keep on multiplying each and everything, and I have 100 as the beginning, you will see a really big output at the very end, right? So as you can see, the final value is 72,000. So this is how we can use reduce function to do even complicated mathematical functions. So whatever you want to give some logic, right, you can put this inside this reduce with the first argument as the function arrow function is there, right? You can put any type of logic and you can return that value. So this is how the three new pure functions that we have on top of array that we can use. Okay, so we can try them out later as well. I'll give this code files. Okay, so let me keep this fresh and let me bring out the new code snippet that we have. So before we move on, as of now, does anyone have any doubts about till now we have covered the new array functions that we can use. We used arrow function, template strings, destructuring, and let and constant, right? So if you have any doubts, you can ask them. Let's have a break for 5 minutes, right? It is already, we have hit around 7 o'clock here in India. So if anyone have any doubts, you can post it as well. So let us have a 5-minute break and let us come back around 7 p.m. IST. Right, so I guess everyone is back after this break. Okay, so let us move on with whatever the new features that is present in ES6. Right, till now we have covered what is arrows function, template strings, destructuring, and let and const as well, and we saw how we can use map, reduce, as well as filter functions in arrays, right? So there are other concept in ES6 as well, which I have listed over here. These are like the popular ones that you will be using even in your development, software development for front end and back end using JavaScript. Okay, so I'll be showing you more of that. So let me go back to this REPL online editor. Okay, so let me show you the new concepts that we can use. Right, just a second. Okay, so I'll be sharing a repository actually for you to explore in the future as well. So let me put it in the chat. So whatever the new features that we're discussing, right, there are even more tons of it that you can see in the in the future as well, and I'll be showing you the most important ones only because of the time constraint. Okay, so if you can see, I'll be sharing this repository where every ECMAScript feature is kind of given with examples, right? So you can see there is arrow functions, classes and all were actually introduced in JavaScript in ES6 only. So these are the concept that is present in normal programming languages like C, C++ that we have, Python and Java itself. But it took some time in JavaScript to be implemented. As you can see, we have template strings, destructuring. We can also do destructuring for arrays as well. As you can see, this is how we can do it. They have mentioned it, and that's a new feature in functions that we can use, which is default arguments. As you can see, this two arguments x and y is there, right? So instead of passing just two values, we can only pass one value, and we also can get the output when we are giving the default arguments, right? Y is 12 if not passed, right? So whenever you don't pass in any new value for this function, we'll actually get the output as 15. So as you can see this expression, right? So this will actually give the value as true. So this is what you can explore in the future, and this is called as a spread operator. Okay, just 3 dots followed by an variable name. Okay, so what it does is anything extra that you put inside this function, while you're calling this function, all of this will be stored in an array with the variable name y. Okay, so that's why when we are passing 3 and the rest of the values are stored in y, right? So this, what they are returning is nothing but the length of this array. The length of this array will be 2 if both of these are passed and stored as array, right? So this also will give the value as true. So let me show you to you as well in this let me show this code example as well, and let me console.log directly, right? So I would also highly recommend to go through this repository that is present over here, right? You can check it out. So as you can see, the value is again coming as true. That's because this is actually stored as array only, right? So if I try to console.log, let's say, for more clarity, let me console.log the array inside the function itself. You can pretty much clearly see the spread operator kind of spreads the value. That's why it's called spread, right? It's kind of spreading the value one by one in an array, right? So as you can see, the array is given as output. So this is how kind of you can use the concepts, and you can check it out later as well. You can also use this for assigning any value as well. So latent consists there, iterators and generators is kind of advanced concepts, but you can explore it later as well. So if you guys are maybe interested, we can also have another event in our JavaScript roadmap covering some advanced concept as well. So this is actually another new data structure called map, right? So in other languages you might have heard about hash maps, hash tables. So that key value pair also we can kind of create it using the new features. As you can see, we have proxies. These are all new concepts you can check out later. So I'll be showing you something new over here. Okay, so this is called promises. This part you'll see a lot in building during web development and building software development, right, in JavaScript. So let me show you this particular code, what it does. The code editor. Okay, so let me show you the concept. Okay, so this is the code that we had, right? So before moving on, let me show you what is timeout, right? So set timeout is nothing but it is a function which will accept two parameters, resolve and duration. So based on this resolve and duration, what it does, it will kind of pause this function, this execution for particular amount of time. Okay, it will kind of pause the execution. Pause means it will how do I say, pause the execution itself. The execution won't happen until this duration is satisfied in with respect to the timing. Okay, so if I try to let's say what they have given over here is timeout. Okay, I try to run this. Let me run it. think it's running properly. Okay, so cool. So let me show you set timeout properly. I think there's a code example. Okay, great. So I have this code example, right? Let me bring it to top to better understand what is set timeout first and what happens here. Right, so this set timeout, as you can see, it is accepting a resolve. Resolve is nothing but the another function. Here we are passing an arrow function, right, which is console logging the output as first message, second message and third message, and we are passing the duration as well. So in duration is actually passed as milliseconds in JavaScript. Okay, 5000 means nothing but 5000 milliseconds, which stands for 5 seconds. Okay, so if I try to run this code, for you, so what happens is the output will come in this fashion actually. See, as you can see, it's loading for a long time, right? What it does is, based on each and every duration that we have, as you can see, it is coming one by one. First third message came, then first message came, then first third, then second, then first. As you can see, based on the duration, it is kind of pausing it for a second and coming up, right? So let me give it, let's say I want to receive the first message for let's say after 2 seconds. Let's say I want to receive second message for 3 seconds, and let's say I want the third message as soon as possible. Okay, let me change this order, let's say, and the output will be quite different, right? It will be third message, and then it will be first message and second message, as you can see. So this is how we can use set timeout, and this is very useful because in JavaScript, whenever you want to whenever you have some functions which has to kind of call any backend APIs and do some computation or get some data, those kinds of things can wait for some time, and so that other part of the code can execute, right? So this is how we can take advantage of set timeout in JavaScript. Okay, so coming back to this code snippet, promises, here the code snippet is actually used to explain promises, right? So promise nothing but it's a promises are library for asynchronous programming, just like what I was talking about. Whenever you have let's say you have 1000 lines of code, okay, which is a website which is loading your let's say the game that we are talking about, and whenever you are trying to load this, right, let's say we have a slow internet connection. First of all, if we try to load a normal program, the JavaScript and style won't be kind of applied to it directly. If you have visited few websites, right? So some websites, what it does is it kind of takes a lot of time to load every file and kind of execute it. So in those cases, in what we can do, we can try something called asynchronous programming, which basically states that, let's say I have this 1,000 lines of code, right? Let's say this is the big line of lines of code, and you can use this asynchronous programming concept to run this function and run the next functions until this runs. We can also continue and move on to the next functions and all. That's how you can use asynchronous programming, and promises is actually one of them, which facilitates it in a way like it is a first class representation of value that may be available in the future. Okay, that's how we use promises in a lot of libraries. And over here, as you can see, they have created a simple promise which will accept, resolve and reject two parameters called resolve and reject, and it is using set timeout as the return value, right? And here what he's trying to do is creating a variable p, and he's assigning the timeout promise to this one. It will return a promise, right? It will return a promise with duration 0 because we are giving a default argument. So for every promise that we have, we generally use dot then. This is also another function. So whenever this promise is done, right, what should we do next? That's what happens in dot then. Okay, so okay, let me show you. Come back, and to better understand, let me put it at the bottom and let me get this over here. Okay, so instead of returning anything, let me console.log as well. As you can see, console.log, and let me try to kind of log that we are in the timeout 2000, right? And let's say I'm logging this one as well. So as you can see, like whenever you want to get to understand something, some part of code snippet, you can use console.log to your advantage and kind of inside these functions and all, and you can check whenever we are visiting, where we are visiting, and when we are visiting, all of this stuff, right? So let me see, right, and this is actually catching error. So let me run this. So what happens is, let me clear the previous output. As you can see, there's a delay because we have given 1 second, right? And after that it is returning another timeout of 2 seconds. And as you can see, this is actually the previous output, right? I am also running this code along with this code, and the first part that which was running was timeout 2000, right? So this is actually a promise which is returned by this timeout function, right? Whenever we call timeout function and give duration, it is actually returning as a promise which is setting the timer to the past duration. Here it is 1 second, right? And we are passing it to 1 second, and sorry, this would be actually 1 second, and we are returning a timeout, which is another promise, and based on that promise we are again applying this dot then function. So whenever there is a promise, right, whenever there is a promise that we are assigning to something, right, we have to use dot then so that we can apply something once this promise is done. So the promise is nothing but I'm waiting for this function to happen. Once it does, you do whatever it is present in the dot then, right? So if you can see this code carefully, output carefully, I used a promise over here, right? Sorry, just a second. And here this promise is actually taking duration 1, and this is taking, let's say, duration 2, right? Okay, it was like this before, and I'm throwing an error over here, catching the error as well. So if you can see the execution properly, what happens is, along with this code will actually run, this code will wait, and this code will run quickly, and it will come back over here. That's what promise does. It will kind of promise for, as the timeout 1000 is executed first, and everything else is executed in the rest of the code, and we are coming back and we are applying the dot then, right? We are applying the dot then, and we are inside this duration whatever we passed, right? This promise is again return, and we are applying this dot then, and we are throwing an error willingly, and we are catching it using this dot catch. So this is what is known as chaining in JavaScript. We are chaining each and every functions on top of each other, right? So as you saw the execution, right? So this is what we call as asynchronous JavaScript, asynchronous programming in JavaScript. Okay, and promise is nothing but it is what it is literally. It is promising that I will return something. Until then, you can go on and do the rest of the execution, right? So that's what happened in our code as well. As I can see, we have set timeout, 3 set timeouts after this as well, which went on and ran until this next duration was waiting for 2000 seconds. So it took extra time as well. As you can see, at first it is 1000 and 2000, but the entire execution over here is done by then itself, right? So that's how you can use promises in JavaScript to kind of tell the program, parts of the program, to wait and until some other execution is running, and it is promising that okay, I will give you a kind of output as well, or else I will reject the output. So this is what either we resolve or we reject. That's why we pass 2 functions actually, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it about the most important concepts that we wanted to cover actually, right, in ECMAScript. So yeah, so before we move on, I would like to have some announcements from JU chapter, right? So we have a JavaScript channel in our Discord community. Okay, there's a Discord community for our channel, and you can come over there, and you can kind of discuss about your doubts and ideas, anything that you want to ask about JavaScript later with me. I'll be active in Discord, so let me add the invite link in the chat as well. You can come and check it out. So we have a separate JavaScript channel, so that I will be sharing every recording, every resource that I get personally. I have followed all of the details as well in this JavaScript channel. So make sure you join this Discord community and check it out. Let me show you the Discord channel as well. Just a second. So Deepak says thank you for you as well, Deepak, for attending the event. I hope you liked it. You and Yadantar are the 2 people who's been constant till the very end. I really appreciate your interest in JavaScript and ECMAScript and all. So you can go check out this Discord community. Let me open it up. So
thank you, Ashwin. So actually,
yes, Deepak,
and in there.
Can you come again? You are lagging in between.
Okay, I'm sorry. So anyways, thank you for the session. So I was actually looking to join a local chapter here in Bangalore, but the first one that came out was Mumbai, I believe, and then later on we got this. I'm glad I'm here. Thank you so much.
Okay, that's great. So be in touch as well. So let me show you the chapter community that we have. We have actually conducted JavaScript front-end marathon. We conducted a lot of events till now. I'll show you the chapter landing page as well.
Sure.
Any new we are coming up, you can get that alerts directly in your mail if you join our event landing page at Codecademy. Let me show it in the.
I'm sorry, I don't know how I got disconnected.
It's okay. So I have posted the link as well, right? So first of all, let me show you the Discord community at first. There's a lot of channels that you can visit, and the first one, that one I was talking about, is the JavaScript channel. So previously, in this basics event, I covered whatever the resources are there, the PPT, the code files. I've added them in the GitHub repository. The resources, I have also shared a lot of cheat sheets provided by Codecademy platform itself. Those are for free. You can check out the recordings as well. And I'll be
Okay.
very active here. So yeah, you can check that out. And
Okay.
this is the landing page of our chapter, right? So every month we'll be having a meetup at the very end of the month. Okay, we'll be discussing about any new updates.
Okay.
And anyone wants to join. So as you can see, we have actually covered around 8 events till now. So each and every event you will be having recordings as well if you have missed it, and you can register for every event using view details. Okay, so and I also wanted to share a challenge that you can pursue if you are really interested in JavaScript. Okay, so
Sorry, can you please come again?
yeah, just a second. So that's a JavaScript challenge that you can pursue on HackerRank. So let me
Okay.
quickly share
Okay.
the tab. Okay,
Okay. Sure.
yeah, I hope this one is right. Yeah, so there's a HackerRank challenge
Yeah. It does.
on JavaScript. Okay, it is called 10 days of JavaScript, where you can kind of whatever we discussed till now, right, using ECMAScript, using JavaScript, you can kind of solve very basic problems that they will be giving in form of case studies, and it will be very useful to improve your skill as well. You will be getting a badge you can showcase in your coding this one. So okay, check that out.
In my
So
portfolio, yes, I can.
yeah, so that's pretty much about today's event. That's a wrap up. So
Okay.
I'll be posting every recordings code files in the community landing page that I was discussing, so you can check